friends. This letter is addressed to Mr. Patrick Chuasoto. He's the Chargé d'Affaires, who's the top official here at the Embassy of the Philippines at 1600 Massachusetts Avenue Northwest, Washington, D.C. Dear Mr. Chuasoto, we respectfully request that you communicate to your government the deep distress, indeed the outrage, that the American people have for the current policy of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte that encourages the killing of people who use or distribute drugs or who may be suspected of doing so. The repeated remarks of the President to encourage security forces and vigilantes to execute persons who are suspected of using drugs or violating Philippine law by distributing drugs violates Philippine and international law, as well as universal notions of decency and morality. We implore President Duterte to immediately renounce his prior statements and to declare an end to the toleration of extrajudicial murder of people who use or distribute drugs. We call upon the Philippine public to reject extrajudicial killing as a mechanism to preserve public order or to address the public health problem of addiction to drugs, and to call upon the President to reverse the policy of killing. We call upon persons of conscience in the Philippine government, in the health professions, in the law, and in civil society to speak out in condemnation of this policy and to join our call. Throughout the world, there is a consensus that addiction to drugs is a medical problem. We encourage the Philippines to turn to internationally accepted, evidence-based interventions and policies that place the reduction of harm and the well-being of the community at the center of drug policy. We regret that we must reiterate the obvious. People who use drugs are human beings. Throughout the Philippines and indeed throughout the world, those who use drugs are mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, sisters, brothers, and grandparents. Drug users care for their families and communities, and their contribution and place in society is just as valuable and important as those of other groups of persons. Drug users are students, workers, musicians, caregivers, artists, and laborers. Their deaths cause untold suffering and pain among their communities, to their families, and to Filipino society as a whole, and particularly the already poor and marginalized. We acknowledge the desire of the Filipino people and your government to create stability in the Philippines. However, the lesson from other countries where similarly violent approaches have been employed against people who use drugs is that those policies magnify pain, suffering, social exclusion, and lead to further instability. Respectfully, signed by those of us who are present on behalf of the organizations that we represent.